Weaving involves strips of foliage and creating a warp and a weft. The strips can be still attached to stems or totally separated to make a new form. Plaiting is the art of taking long leaves and manipulating them in a less formal way so they are sort of twisted around each other. Ideal material are any leaves that can provide long, thin strips such as beargrass or New Zealand flax, Phormium tenax, or any large leaf that has a grain running down its length. If you can tear it into strips like this, lengthwise, easily, it's ideal. The Strelitzia, or bird of paradise, comes in many varieties and so do the leaves. Look for a large paddle-shaped leaf to try this technique, with a contrasting long, thin leaf, such as a New Zealand flax, this one's variegated, or cordyline or sedges, anything that's got a lovely variegation in it. Okay, so you start with a knife and you can see here on the Strelitzia the veins. You're going to cut along these veins with a sharp knife. I'm doing every second one here because I really want them to stand out. You can do if you want your work finer, do every vein. Now I'm going to split the flax. You can see one side is quite green, the other is that beautiful yellow. So it's the yellow I am after. I'm going to split it so that I only have the yellow, then I'm going to split it again because I'm going to put one piece of this yellow on both sides of the Strelitzia. The very top is going to go to the very top there, and now you weave in and out and in and out. I'm going to do this again in a minute so you can just see the difference between having done two or one cut here. Pull it right through. You might like this up here like that as a tail, depends on your design, and of course the other side also can look really good. Now we'll try it again, and this time we'll make it much finer. So this time I'm going to cut every one. You can see those veins there. I'm only cutting a little slip, don't go right out to the edge unless you want to do two different strips. I'm weaving with the harder side, not the fine point. It's just easier. So this way it's going to take you longer, it's a little bit fiddlier, but it's going to give you a much finer detail. Once again, pull it through. Keep it lovely and straight. So it's going up through there, and now we'll do the same on the other side. Started with that rib there, so I'm going to start with this rib here. Leaves have a natural graduation, so they get bigger as they get to the top. If you use much thinner strips, you can actually go up here again, but out and in rather than in and out. Just one leaf like this in your arrangement will create a smile, especially if you have got matching yellow flowers in the rest of your arrangement. Put it down. Doesn't that look amazing? Now to finish, you can cut them off obviously at the back. If you wanted to cut them off here, a wee dab of glue and they'll be fine, or you can bring them down and bind them on the stem so the stem of the Strelitzia also reflects that lovely colour and technique. So there it is, weaving with a Strelitzia leaf and a piece of beautiful variegated New Zealand flax. A strong long leaf such as this beautiful piece of New Zealand flax is ideal for weaving a flax flower. Cut it as long as possible off the flax plant if you haven't bought it from your wholesaler, and split it into 4 or 6 strips depending on how fine you want the flower to be. Okay, so I'm going to do it into 6 strips. With your fingernail, mark them off. You could do 8 strips. I've seen them done very, very fine. 16 strips. The finer the strip, the finer the flax flower is going to be. Now I've got those, I can bring them right down. You don't need such a big piece of flax. You can make a flax flower with a strip that's only that big, simply because you would divide that into 6 or 4 strips and it would be much, much finer. You can make them very, very tiny. Okay, so we're going to take this outer strip and we're going to weave it across, in and out, in and out, in and out. You're going to bend it down like that. Now take your new outer strip and weave that going over the top, underneath, over the top, underneath, and bring it down to there. Now you're going to do the same with this next one, over, under, over. And the next one, over, under. And the next one obviously just over. Now turn the whole piece around so all the strips are back to being vertical. Da, 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 like that. And we're going to do it again. This is my first strip, under, nice tidy turn, and then the next one, over when it's under and under when it's over. Then the next one. The next one. And the next one. And round we go again. So I've now gone and now I'm turning it 90 degrees again. Weaving across again, exactly the same. Across we go. If you want to make that tidy, you can flick it that way to make it tidier than the other way. See, I just did a reverse fold there. Do it again like that. It's actually just tidier. and around we go. New Zealand flax does shrink, so keep them packed really tight at this stage, because in a couple of days when it's shrunk you'll have quite large gaps in there. That's not a problem because it's wonderful. You can just use it as a flower, or you can use it to put other things in it, like a bouquet armature with where the holes are. That's the stem, so around I go again. And we're on our way again. Do a reverse fold that way. This is the handle, so we turn it around again so it's vertical towards us, and carry on, because this time you're now onto the second layer, weaving in and out till we get to there. I've made this very big so you can see each piece easily. Alright, so we've got to there and that one, and now we turn again. Getting pretty repetitive now, aren't we? Alright, you can see at this point I'm running out of this little piece of flax here, so I have another piece that I can slip in over the top of it as a join to carry on, and that's how you keep going. Alright, so you can make your flax flower with as many layers as you want simply by adding on and joining more little bits of flax to it. Now I'm going to show you something phenomenal here. As you do each layer, it's actually creating, if I hold those down, quite a definite layer. Okay, so you've now got the idea, and I'll show you just how to finish it if you've decided that's as long as you want to go. You take all these pieces and you push them through the middle here. Down through all of the layers. Just find a wee hole and push them all down through. And the side, give them a really good pull through. Alright, you might have done 3 or 4 layers at this stage, but just pull them all through like that. And on the other side, just tie a knot. And that is the traditional way that the Maori people of New Zealand finish them off. Just a knot through there. It doesn't even have to be a double knot. Then cut off there and leave it to dry. And that is your flax flower. As neat, as big, as fine as you'd like to do it. So now you've practiced on a great big one, which will make it easier for your hands to deal with. I've got here a much smaller one. Now this was made with half of a blade of flax. So when I divided into 6, the pieces were much smaller. I've also gone round a lot more times. In fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times I have gone round. Each time as I was running out of a strand, just replacing it with another piece. So you can tie it off exactly the same as the big one that I have just shown you if you want it to just be a flax flower. But this time I'm going to tie it off at the front. Once again, just with a knot. As this dries, it will shrink the knot as well as everything else. And of course it will hold it very tightly in place. If you feel as you'd like to, just use a little bit of glue. Right, now so you can see there all of those layers, like a little pyramid building, and you could actually cut it off there or at the back, and you've just got a very lovely layered flax flower. This will also curl up for your handle. But when you go like this, look at that wonderful sensation there. And surely there must be something you can do with that. So I'll give you an idea. Just cut off the knot with some very blunt scissors. And I have a piece of dowel here. And I'm going to wind the dowel up through the centre of each layer. It's quite a little gap there. When you make your own, you'll find that little gap. And I'm just winding it up through that centre till I get to that middle one there. Now I'm going to pull so it is threaded on the dowel. I'm doing this so that as it dries, this spiral shape will be set. So a little bit of sellotape at the top here, just to hold it onto the dowel temporarily, and a little bit of sellotape to hold it onto the dowel at the base, and this is just to keep it stretching while it dries. I've left this for a couple of days. It's summer here and therefore it's been quite hot, and I'll take this off now. You can see it's dried out considerably. Take off the sellotape at that end, and there is your lovely spiral. Can you imagine if you thread down through here a long stemmed rose or carnation? So the carnation sitting at the top, that's decorating the stem, and this is beautifully bound to the rest of the stem. How that's going to really add value to either a Valentine's Day single rose or a single carnation or anything like that. It's really going to add value, and somebody's going to treasure that for a long time. So that's a really cool idea, using half a piece of New Zealand flax. A strong long leaf such as this New Zealand flax is ideal for weaving with ribbon. You can use any leaf, providing it can be split into strips, as it needs a strong line going from top to bottom with no veins. So if you're using New Zealand flax, cut a point on the end of the flax for ease of adding it to the floral foam. And then select your ribbon. The ribbon, if you want a very fine looking weave, can be as fine as this one here. You can also, if somebody wants lots of bling, use a synthetic ribbon, which is, this one is slightly wider, which of course makes it quicker. And if you can find a Valentine's Day ribbon that is thinner than this, that also is a rather quirky thing to add value to a leaf. You'll also need a toothpick and some wire. As with any weaving, you need to have an even number of strips. So I'm going to cut this in half, and then a third and a third. It pays to have long fingernails when you're working with New Zealand flax. Then simply split it into those pieces. Just as with the flax flower, you can make these as small and as big as you want them to be. Then, using your ribbon, it's pretty simple at this point. It can be pretty time consuming. Cut yourself a length of ribbon. And weave across the weft. And push it down. If you just leave that little tab there for a minute, and then you're ready for the next one. And whatever you do for the fold here, make sure you do it consistently every time, because you're wanting to form a pattern on the edges just as much as you're forming in the middle section. When you're doing this yourself, it's going to be much easier just to pick it up like I have here. It's very awkward lying it flat like that, and bring it down. And that's all you're doing, back and forth and back and forth. You can see the finer your ribbon and the finer the strips, the more elegant it's going to look as you're going up. And that's simply it, back and forth and back and forth all the way. Okay, so I'll carry on until I have gone right up to here, when this tiny thin one will peter out. To join, just exactly the same as you did with the flax flower. If this one was finishing, you simply tuck another one underneath a tiny spot of glue so it's hidden, and then carry on. So that took probably half an hour, and I have put a little bit of cold glue to finish off the ribbon there. And this tab that you started with, you can also use cold glue, or you can just tuck it underneath there neatly. You also, another one here, wee bit of cold glue on there and cut it off neatly. Here's the other side. You can see we've got the back of the ribbon up the edges and the shine through there. So this will last for ages as long as the flax is in water. If it's not in water, it will shrink very rapidly. So that's why recut the point if you have to, so that it gets into water quite quickly. And we've now got this end to do. I've got a toothpick and some decorative wire that is the same colour as the ribbon. Gather them up here so it's all nice and neat. Trim them off, and you can glue these if you want to, or if you're going to put them in foam, you can actually put a little toothpick inside there and just make a little loop, tight as you can go. So this goes down and into the floral foam. And that will make it an awful lot easier for you to get it into the foam. This part here we hope you don't see, so you've got that in the foam and that in the foam, and that gives you your loop. So it's a very easy way, I'm not going to say quick, to really add value to half a piece of New Zealand flax or anything else that you have that will weave beautifully. Have the palm flat in front of you with the stem facing towards your body and the underside upwards. That is the normal front of a palm frond. It is most effective if you do this with a very, very large palm frond, but just for these purposes it's easy to show you with a small one. I'm going to do one side. You can see in the photo that this done with the big one, and it just looks so amazing. Bend the first one down and over and under and over and under in a normal weave. And when you get to the last piece here, tuck it so it's right against the stem, and with a wee toothpick take a dab of cold glue and just pop it there, and that will hold that frond in place. Cold glue, leave it for 10 seconds and it will hold. Over, under. Keep pulling it towards the stem as you go. Another wee dab of glue underneath there. And obviously now you've got the rhythm, you go into the third one. I'm just folding it over there. And a wee bit of glue underneath there. These are very, very soft fronds, possibly picked in spring. And it's much easier with the bigger ones. Bigger ones give you more to play with, of course, so you get a far denser weave. And you do this until you've gone right down all of the fronds. The key to it is keeping them slanting in towards that stem. Just going to put the glue in this one here, it's just a bit easier. It's very quick, this. It's probably one of the quickest there is for weaving, and it does look good. And that's how you finish it off, just at the top there, by keeping it in the same rhythm. A little bit of glue under there. And of course that holds that in place. And there you have it. This beautiful plaited one side and free the other side. It really does make a difference. Have it flat in front of you with a stem facing into your body and the underside upwards. Now I'm assuming you know how to do a 3-plait, taking 3 strands, bringing the left into the middle, the right into the middle, the new left into the middle, okay? So you're going to start with your palm and there's 3 at the top. Use that as your very first middle strand. Here's your second one for a 3-plait. There's your third one, into the middle and into the middle. That is the very beginning. You notice I'm pulling it towards me as I go. So it's into the middle. This is going to be the next one that's going into the middle. So I'm taking that one, grabbing all 3 of that group and bringing them into the middle. I've got 1, there's still my 3. Now this is the next one going into the middle, so I'm taking this one here and combining it with that one and bringing that into the middle, still pulling towards me. still got my 3. This is the next one to come into the middle, so I grab it with this one into the middle. This is the next one into the middle, that one there, so I grab it with that one into the middle. Aren't you pleased that you actually can re-one this DVD? Okay, that one now, so I'm pulling down this one to join it and into the middle. This one here to join it and into the middle. This one here to join that one and into the middle. This one here to join that one and into the middle. Still pulling it towards me. Got the idea now, that one there and into the middle. That one there and into the middle. That one there into the middle. As these little pieces flick out, it's because they're too small, doesn't matter, because we've got more always coming down. And into the middle. Next one. And into the middle. Next one and into the middle. Next one. Once again, it's much easier to do this with a bigger palm leaf than these little yellow tails, yellow palms. Once you've done about 10 of these, you'll get a really lovely even plait going. You'll see in the slideshow some beautiful work done exactly this way. They will dry, and when they dry you can paint them any colour you want. Okay, so there's the plait done. I'm now carrying on plaiting. And when I get to end, you simply bring it round this way and tie it off, combining 2 of the plaits and one, and tie it off with a neat knot. You can, if you prefer not to tie it, you can glue it. Once you've tied it off, glued it, cut off the ends. And then just trim up all these little tiny bits that have come on out because you ran out there, and leave it. Now that is a very small example of a plaited palm. Make a big one. It's going to be easier to practice on, but also it's going to look much more spectacular. leaves can also be looped or twisted or shaped before being pinned to hold them in position, either with floral foam or other plant material. So there's lots of different opportunities here. Ideal materials are the leaves of the Aspidistra, this one here, the Astelia. Astelia silver spear has got the silver back on it, New Zealand flax, and this one is Agapanthus leaf. Anything though that has a long soft leaf that will twist and turn and hold in position when it's pinned. Aspidistra leaves are very beautiful, and twisting them through a design is to make areas for flowers to nest enhances both the leaves and the flowers. Before you start, stroke the leaf and discover which way it wants to bend and twist. You may have to push down on the stem with your fingers just to loosen it a bit, rather like a human getting a massage. Okay, now cut the stem to the length that you want it on an angle. Wet the floral foam and just put the stem in. Remember, I've decided that the leaf wants to go this way. So in goes the stem and just curl it. You see how it's naturally just wanting to curl like that. Then in goes a floristry pin. Pop it in a place that's going to be well hidden and then twist it again. And another little pin, and there you've got a start. And if you imagine if you've got 3 or 4 of these beautiful leaves going around in like this, and here are all the lovely spaces to add your pristine carnations or roses. Absolutely beautiful, very fast little technique for looping Aspidistra leaves. If you won't want both ends of the Aspidistra to go into the floral foam, this pointy end also can be used to poke it in. All you're going to need is a toothpick to here, and then using a small piece of florist's wire, loop it 1, 2, 3 and down and cut and down and cut it off, and there you have the other way to be able to insert it straight in to the floral foam. Long leaves of New Zealand flax, irises, orchids, sedges, astelia and many more that will be easy for you to find are ideal for creating loops of colour and space in a design. There is a right side and a wrong side in looping on most of these sorts of blades, and you'll discover the right way by looping the leaf, one end in each hand, and loop it so your hands meet. If you've got it right way, the loop is smooth. If you've got it the wrong way, can you see the wee curls? And it's just not the same. It'll have ripples on it. So you need to loop it where it's lovely and smooth. And often the underside is the best side for that looping. Same with New Zealand flax. That's the right side. That's the wrong way to loop it. This time we will use this iris leaf. Cut an arrow in it. Pop it into the foam. That's the wrong way, that's the right way. So into the foam. And when you go down here, you then put in the floristry pin. Then make a little fold before you do your next loop. That fold keeps your loops lovely and sharp before you add the next one. So you can get quite a few loops into a design. I'm just going to use a little pin for that last one because a great big floristry pin wouldn't work on it. And that is how you loop. Quick and easy, and it really looks good when you've got lots and lots and lots of them in the base of your arrangement. Decorating leaves provide accents within a design. The decorations are usually glitzy, yet subtle, so the unity of the design is still maintained. Ideal material is any plant material that has enough surface area to add the decoration. If you're sewing, the leaf will have to be tough enough, like this camellia or this strelitzia, to take little holes in there without it tearing. This is an excellent technique to break a large surface like this that would dominate a design, or to add a little bit of colour used elsewhere into the leaves. To sew a leaf to make it more decorative is a wonderful way to complement your design and show up easily against the leaf. Now, wire, such as this bullion wire, tends to cut the leaf, so don't even think about using it. And also, if you use a very large needle, like this one here, it will tear into the leaf, doesn't matter how tough the leaf is. So I recommend that you use either Effect glitzy yarn or embroidery cotton. If you go to a craft shop, you'll find this cotton comes in an enormous range of colours, and it has 6 strands on it. So you can then choose if you just pull out one strand or use all 6 of them. In this case, I am using 4 strands, so it will show up in this lime green. I have threaded it onto a finer needle so that it won't rip into the leaf. Whatever leaf you're using, choose one that is quite tough, and every leaf has got veins on it. If you follow the lines of these veins, it is going to be more in keeping with the nature of the leaf. I'm going to start by putting the needle on the back side, pull it through, and then follow the vein through. Now I'm going to take the needle up to the next vein. The reason I've got to keep it uniform is because the back has to look as good as the front. So over to there and to the next vein. If you look on the back, you'll see that we're going to get these little notches through there, and this is why you've got to be so careful about how you're actually going to do those back pieces. See how the 4 threads show up beautifully. You did this with gold thread. If you were using white flowers and a green and white design, using white thread would look lovely. Okay, so we're going along there, and you can see we're just getting that little pattern on the back, quite innocuous, and because it's lime green it's actually beautifully hidden. And up we go to this one here. If you have got an embroidery book, it will give you lots of different stitches you can use. This is just a long running stitch. And you could get really quite keen. It could be a signature for your bouquets. You could embroider people's initials if it was a wedding bouquet. Alright, so we've got that far. So now I'm going to see if I can match as much as I can going up the other way the same length of the stitch. much as I can, as much as nature will let me, by still following those lines. See how on a camellia leaf the veins are not absolutely parallel each other. They're actually one in between the other two. If this was traditional embroidery, you would finish off in a very fancy way on the back. There's the front. But what I'm going to suggest you do is get a tiny little bit of cold glue on a toothpick. Cold glue takes about 20 seconds to set. And push it down into the cold glue this way. This will keep the ends, but it also keeps it without it being lumpy. So we've got them matching, it's nice and neat. We turn over and you have your decorated leaf. You don't need to do too many of them for impact, and of course any design, any embroidery pattern you feel like doing. Rolling leaves and then stapling them in an unobtrusive way is a great way to fill up spaces quickly, add texture and create a foil for all the flowers. Rolling is completed before being added to the design, while looping is done within the design. So that's the difference between rolling and looping. Now, ideal material is any plant material you can roll, such as this aspidistra. Rolls beautifully. New Zealand flax is also ideal, and Stevia leaves. But keep an eye out, any leaf at all that you've got available to you that you can roll beautifully and easily. Rolled leaves all grouped tightly together look wonderful in a modern design. The technique is actually really simple. If you're using New Zealand flax, split it down the middle and take out this hard centre here. Then cut off the ends at an angle. This is what will be going into the floral foam. Check once again which way it wants to roll. That way is all crinkly, that way is lovely and smooth. So it wants to roll with what we would call the outside in, and roll it. When you get to this point, a staple. Now, the smallest staple gun you can find, and staple it so it's well hidden in there. And there you have, as simple as that, a rolled leaf. Now this little piece here, if you choose to, you can also roll that in with a wee bit of glue, or you can keep it out and just take off those little brown pieces, and you've got yourself a jaunty design. Now you imagine this all side by side in a design. It looks really, really good in your final arrangement. You can also roll a leaf such as flax around a small cube of floral foam and secure it with pins. So let's just have a look at the type of pins you can use depending on the scale of your design and your leaf. The first way you can make pins is just decorative wire that you have cut into small pieces and turn into U shapes. So those will go in, and of course the tighter your U, the smaller the pin will, top of the pin will show. You can also, if you have much heavier material, use panel pins. These are little nails that come from a hardware shop, and of course the ultimate to hold anything in place are these U-shaped mossing pins that are part of a floristry kit. You get those from a floristry supplier. It all depends, of course, on how fine your material is. So to roll a piece of flax, just get a small piece of floral foam. Once again, which way does it want to roll? It wants to roll this way. I've cut it at a point, put it in, and round we go. This is a wonderfully useful way of using small bits of floral foam to create another design. Obviously I'm not making the design here, I'm just showing you the technique. And you put in that little pin you've made. Now if you've done this around and round and round several times, you can then make a little posy up the top with flowers, cling film underneath, and you've got yourself a very, very cheap little gift that you have used using a long blade to wrap around it. Aspidistra and hydrangea leaves are ideal for skewering onto themselves and then using the stalk to insert in the foam so that the leaf is able to drink easily. It's used a lot for modern designs because the skewered leaves are grouped tightly together to form a textural effect. The smaller the leaf, obviously, the smaller the loop formed. Okay, so you just, around you go. This is the hydrangea. Push it in right the way through and pop it into your foam. And it covers a lot of area very quickly, and it's a wonderful way of basing that covers an area very fast. The key is to group them very, very tightly together, and it's done. Now with an aspidistra leaf, because it's so much bigger, you may be able to twist the leaf in some way before you put it through the leaf. And the way you twist it is going to be entirely up to you. But these beautiful twists can then happen. It goes into the floral foam when you've cut off the stalk, and you go, wow, all the possibilities you've got for something like this. Double twists, triple twists, it's really up to you. It's just an awful lot of fun. Creating a three-dimensional stacking effect with flat leaves takes a lot of leaves and sometimes a lot of glue. A new form is created and completely different effect is achieved. Ideal material, it's any leaves you have a lot of, such as Camellia, especially in late spring and winter, and Magnolia grandiflora. Select leaves that are tough, like these ones. They're uniform in their size and will last a long time out of water. Layering leaves in a way that's been achieved in this photo of a design by Max van der Sloot takes a lot of leaves, a lot of patience and a lot of glue. The best glue to use is spray-on glue. It's special florist glue and it's called Tack 1000 or Tack 2000. The lesser number is for smaller thicknesses of plant material. There's no base in this technique. You start with a line of leaves and glue and build and glue and build. These are Magnolia grandiflora leaves and you just build it along as you go. You may want to glue a line of wire through as you go, because then you can actually, once they're glued, you can bend the leaves as Max has done to create the shape that you need. Layering leaves with an axle is faster than using the glue. You simply pierce the leaves with a stick, a nail, wire or support and the 3D effect is done. The technique works best if you are neat and create a pattern with similar shaped and sized leaves, making a new form from the whole rather than accentuating each leaf. You can see in the illustration here, the pattern has been formed with leaves built one on top of the other, going first one way and then the other. You can do this with 3 leaves forming a circle as the first layer and building around and around, intertwining as you go. In this photo, a smaller spacer leaf has been used between the green leaves, giving a contrast in colour as the layering builds. Two-dimensional layering uses other shapes as the foundation to glue, pin or secure leaves, laid out in a uniform pattern way. Balls, cones, squares, hearts, wreaths are all shapes that can be utilised as well as shoes and handbags. Ideal material are any leaves that you have a lot of again, such as Camellia, Lamb's-Ear, Ivy and Magnolia grandiflora. Select leaves that are tough, uniform and last a long time out of water, and if leaves are a little rounded and you want them absolutely flat, that's quite lumpy there, lay them under a weight overnight to make them more uniform. For Lamb's-Ear, put it between pieces of newspaper and under your mattress for the night and then they'll be beautiful and flat. You can add leaves to any shape, either dry foam, wet foam or polystyrene. It is easiest to try your first attempt on a flatter surface, but as you get into the technique, any shape will be easy. If you flatten the leaves overnight, as I've done with this Lamb's-Ear, under a heavy weight with newspaper in between, an ideal place is under your mattress actually, it will make a smoother surface. You can see here's the Lamb's-Ear that is straight picked and it's all curly. Overnight underneath the mattress, it's beautiful and flat. Now if you're going to use a polystyrene cone, paint it first unless you're using white leaves, because if the leaves shrink, the white polystyrene will shine through. I've got also these little bits of wire that I've cut and I'm going to bend them into quite small U's. They don't actually even have to be this long. It's essential that you make a pattern. So you start where you want your Lamb's-Ear to be and put your little pin in there. Then your second leaf covers up the first one. How much you overlap is entirely up to you and the pattern that you're trying to make. And in it goes. I picked decorative wire to make these U pins, so if I do have to show one, it's not going to be a problem because it's just a neat little piece of wire. Now this one here, if I was doing this completely and not just an example for you, I would be making it on a rather nice spiral. To see a cone like this completely finished for actually a Christmas design, you can go to this DVD, which you can see there, and it will give you all the details. So that's called layering, and with lamb's ear it will last several years. When you're doing the second layer, layer it over the first one, and in goes your little pin again. So it's pretty easy. Now I'll show you what you can also do with a camellia leaf in layering. You can quietly bend the camellia leaf so you're seeing not just the underside but the upside, and when you put that on here you get a whole different beautiful effect. Being a camellia, I have to use a stronger pin. And then when the second one goes on top, you can see you get this fabulous effect. So that's another way you can use your leaves when you are layering. And this of course can be on a sphere, a cone, a flat surface, any shape whatsoever. Shredding leaves can be as violent or as careful as you want the end result to be. Beautiful new forms, full of space and light, come from carefree ripping up a long leaf, while tearing into tiny strips can give rhythm and flow. Ideal material is any long leaf that you can tear down the grain, once again such as New Zealand flax, agapanthus, sedge, orchid, iris, gladiola leaves. This is an iris leaf. They all look like this, so long and thin and all ready to get violent with. Shredding to create space and light is not a technique you will often see in Western flower arranging, but you will see it in ikebana, which is Japanese style of flower arranging from the East. The shredded leaf, in this case an aspidistra, is positioned so it hangs down and gravity creates the spaces and lines within the design, as you can see in this photo. Almost any leaf is suitable as long as it has a grain that travels the length of the leaf. I've got a florist's knife and you're just going to cut down the leaf, in this case an aspidistra. You can see it's got its own natural lines, so it makes sense to follow them. Obviously not going to the right to the edge, and you'll see it already just with that little bit there, it is starting to hang. Now you can shred as much of it as you want, as narrow as you want, but that is a wonderful way, very quick way of using an aspidistra leaf so it has elegance and beauty. Strelitzia leaves are wonderful for this technique, although any strong leaf can be used, so experiment with what's around you. On this side, I'm going to cut right to the edge. You see I'm following those lines. If you haven't got a lot of time, you don't have to do the whole leaf, you can just perhaps do a little curl in the middle. Now these are going to be curled over and pushed into this side. So on this side I'm simply going to do a little notch there. And I'll just show you what you're going to do. You're going to go through here and through the notch. And there it is on the back. A wee bit of glue if you choose on the back. Next one, a little slot. Take the next one. Whatever you do, do it exactly the same all the way down. Some strelitzias have much longer leaves than this. Strelitzias also last a long time out of water. When it dries, it will dry the most beautiful brown colour, and of course these loops will also dry into this shape. Okay, keep them even as you want, and you can flick that one over or you can have that one still out like that. So there's the back of it. You want to neaten these up. Spot of glue. So that the back will also have this lovely pattern on it. And then there you have it. The most beautiful rhythmical leaf. It didn't take very long and does look wonderful. Beer grass and steel grass are the grasses that are used often to create space and arrangement. But if you can't get those sort of things, New Zealand flax leaves are wonderful because you can shred them and get lots of thin strips of fibre. You can select any long tough leaf that will last after this treatment and experiment with what's around you. To make it more manageable, cut the end of the flax into a point so that all the shreds can be pushed into the floral foam all at exactly the same time. And then split the flax into 3 or 4 strips just above there. This is just to make it easier and quicker for you. Okay, then you're going to need an old-fashioned pin holder, often called a frog. It's really just nails that have been pushed into a lead base. This one is very overused. You can see the nails are in all sorts of directions, but it does work for this. So you push the flax onto it, hold it this way so it doesn't get your fingers, and push it through. Now it might take a couple of attempts, especially if it's very tough flax like this New Zealand native is. Now you've seen the action of it, push it down through and go like this. And there it is, done. And then you have, as easy as this beautiful space maker. Just another wee thing to let you know, once you've shredded it, you can do the most beautiful plait with it. Just imagine you were doing hair. Put it up and do a plait upside down. This will, if you haven't got this in floral foam, it will dry into a pale green and of course also curl and shrink. But see, there's a second variation of the same thing. You've got this lovely plait. Wonderful things you can do with a pin holder and a piece of New Zealand flax. give a geometric look to them, which is quite a contrast to the way they are naturally. Ideal material is any long leaf that will give a nice clean fold, such as that. New Zealand flax, this is a variegated form. Alright, but you can also use raupo, taifa and banana leaves. The Thai people fold banana leaves into triangular shapes and sew them into a base and then add flowers, bowls, rounded blocks of floral foam. But you'll see that in the slideshow. Curling leaves is simple, effective and looks as if you really have control of your plant material. If you've done all the lessons on this DVD, that statement is very true. If you're just looking, grab a leaf and have a go. Ideal material is any long leaf that has been left out of water for a day or two without wilting, such as Astelia, New Zealand flax, orchid, iris leaves. Have a look around your area and find something that you think will easily curve and experiment. All you do is select a long leaf that will last out of water for a few days and then just roll it up between your fingers. Add an elastic band or a clothes peg so it stays rolled up and put it in a warm dry place for a couple of days. When you take off that peg, the roll will unfurl to give a wonderful curly leaf. Instant ringlets actually, and this works particularly well with New Zealand flax and Astelia. So I hope you've tried all of these wonderful techniques for adding value to your foliage, for making them something very, very special that just one put in a normal flower arrangement will give it a bit of wow and a bit of zoom, and of course you can charge more. Or if you're a hobby flower arranger, you can just impress your friends because you've had fun doing it, but they're going to also enjoy seeing this lovely little technique you've used in your next arrangement. We'll catch you next time.